Hey everyone, here we are for a special edition of CRTV. This year, bringing all of my colleagues to the forefront to announce Constellation's annual Enterprise Awards. These are awards we give out every year. We meet as a group. If any of you have seen us in person, you know what it's going to feel like to come up with this list of the best in multiple categories for every single one of these. It's bedlam. There's a whole lot of arguing. Doug would call it horse trading, but whatever. We've come up with the list of folks that we really see and organizations that we see really rising to the top. This year was really tough because there were a lot of contenders. So let's get right to it. Drum roll, please, everyone in. There we go. Ray's playing along. There we are. Andy is not. Come on, Andy. Best Enterprise Software Vendor of the Year. We've got co-winners this year. Holger's going to come in and share a little bit about why Salesforce and Google get to share that honor. But we'd have to mention that our runners-up are ServiceNow and Anthropic. Congratulations to you guys. But hey, Holger, tell us why Salesforce and Google rose to the top.
Well, thanks for stealing the thunder, Liz, but here we go. So Salesforce, in our view, was a single winner until this week, basically. And the reason is that at Dreamforce this year, they announced the most complete first ever agent automation framework built on 2 years of R&D. For the first time, breaking not just working with LLMs and the document space, but also looking at the transactional data, something which has been unresponded as far as we're going on 2024. And then doing something which has never been done in enterprise software, where traditionally vendors just announce their offerings and then quarters later, there's a pilot or enterprise install, get upgrade, whatever it is. No, at Dreamforce, 1,000 customers got pre-equipped with Agentsforce. The expectation would be everybody would build one agent. It was so easy and they were so enthusiastic building agents. The average is 10 agents per customer being built during the conference. That is unheard of. So congratulations to Salesforce. And then just this week, so we have all the things coming out and more things coming out on the side of Google. Google has had a year-long 3-4 year long lead on the hardware side, and they pushed that on every time they have a new generation of the TPUs. The question is, can they keep their lead? And they definitely kept their lead on Trillium. And they put Trillium to get to use by shipping the most multimodal model, which Google started in spring at Google Cloud Next, with Gemini 2.0. And the unique thing is that it's multimodal on the learning front. So pictures, voice, text have all been processed on these Trillium machines for that. And what is really happening, we all talk about agentic, we're in the agentic area. Google is pushing into the autonomous area. Close and near to my heart is the ability to analyze bugs, have Google Gemini build the code in both supported JavaScript and Python, and then deliver and deploy potentially that code with the help of the standard code repository in GitHub. So very impressive from that side. Google doesn't stop there. There's more use of that around Project Astra, running out of time here, Project Mariner, which all use Gemini 2.0, which are all very encouraging broad coverage of what might be the start of the autonomous AI future.
Great. Thanks, Holger, for those announcements. Now, Best CEO, always a hotly argued section, at least for all of us. Like, we tend to get into this one. And listen, we had two amazing runners up. We had Matt Garman from AWS and Barak Elam from NICE. But coming out on top, Holger, I wouldn't want to steal your thunder again. Who won?
No, you won't. And if I could, I give you a clue. I would change my wardrobe to a leather jacket. We're talking about Mr. Leather Jacket on stage, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, who has been to, I think, 30-something enterprise events as a partner. He's always an interesting speaker. He's always humble. But first and foremost, and this is why he deserves the reward, is he managed to grow NVIDIA at unforeseen space from a 1 billion total revenue company 9 years ago to a triple billion company revenue. And that means tremendous scale. And speaking the people person here at Constellation, that means he has a very, very good executive team which can scale by himself scaling to this. And the amazing thing is none of his direct company aforementioned officers are there. So the newest one is joined 2017, so he really has hired for growth. He managed to keep the supply chain at bay. There were marginal supply chain issues, and he put the whole chip industry into a heart attack mode by not having a new platform every 2 years, but having a new platform every year, and so far delivering it. So congratulations to Jensen Huang, who's also pushing NVIDIA out of the hardware part with software innovations around the CUDA platform, of course, and the NIMS network.
All righty. Well, that brings us to the best enterprise services vendor. Because let's all be honest here, with all this stuff, is any of this really working if we don't have all these services vendors ready and willing and able to help us all out and figure out all of this chaos? We had Persistent Systems as the runner-up, but Ray, who ended up on top?
Well, it was definitely Accenture, and the services market has massively brutal right now. They're operating at 3 to 5% margins. Most of the OpEx has been taken away by the SaaS vendors and the hyperscalers. They've pretty much sucked up all the budgets, and so in order to play, they've had to figure out how to drive down their cost structures, and they've basically been doing that. And one of the things Accenture did really well about 2 years ago was get in front of the AI conversation. Last year, they probably did more POCs with clients, walking them through how to use AI than anyone else. And that took them to about $1 billion in AI revenue from $100 million from just last year. The loss of global CTO Paul Doherty to a well-deserved retirement will definitely be felt by clients. But more importantly, what's actually happening is this shift to AI is real. And in fact, they're actually changing that landscape, and how they're using AI has been very, very beneficial to clients who have been able to cut costs and, more importantly, do more projects in front. So Accenture is definitely the leader there, but despite this crazy market, they're still not doing promotions in the cycle, which tells you exactly how bad the services market is, but they are the one on top, at least for this year.
All right, expect to see a lot more change as we announce these next December. So hold on to your horse, hold on to your hats, everyone. Listen, while services was certainly in chaos and it was a little hard to pick who was going to come out on top there, it was not that difficult to see who was going to come out on top of the enterprise software startup category. Really, one jumped right up the top, even though we had a super strong runner-up with Kong. Hey, Chirag, who's the winner of this category?
So, as we all know, the enterprise software is not complete without startups. Startups are a key piece of enterprise software ecosystem. And there are hundreds and thousands of startups, and there are thousands of cybersecurity startups, as it happens to be one of the fastest growing sector in enterprise software in general. So the winner is Wiz. And folks who have not known Wiz as a startup has a ARR of $500 million this year. And they're aiming for $1 billion by the time this fiscal year is done. And on top of that, they rejected an acquisition offer from Google for $23 billion. Yes, $23 billion, because they believe they have a strong conviction for what they do, and they believe that they can be a much bigger company than what Google thinks what they can do with them. And they are in the cloud security space. They are making a huge impact. They are working with all the innovative logos, innovative companies out there. And they're pursuing their own path towards an IPO. And this decision and the reason to pick Wiz, it reflects their confidence in their long-term potential and their own strategy on how they're actually going to get there. They're also using the money that they had recently raised for recent acquisitions, such as they bought Gem Security, is one of the other startups, so that they are expanding their portfolio organically as well as inorganically. So while they're a startup and they get the Best Enterprise Software Startup Award, they are actually acting as a grown-up enterprise software company, or in some cases, better than an enterprise software grown-up company.
Best AI launch. Hey guys, did anyone launch any AI this year? It kind of feels like everyone's forgotten about it. Did anyone? No. Andy's saying no, and that's bad when your AI guy says nothing's happening in AI. But
Fake
who
AI.
are we kidding? It was a year of AI, and I think that's what made this actual category really, really hard for us to come up with a winner, because clearly, as Holger mentioned earlier, you have Salesforce coming out with Agentforce. You have all of the LLM providers really coming out with pretty much, like, it felt like a new iteration every month, if not every quarter, for reals, which is why we have Salesforce, Agentforce, and pretty much all the major LLM providers as significant runners up to this category. But the winner for us was someone that was far more usable, that intentionally put it into the hands of users, and that is Adobe. Adobe didn't just leverage Firefly as kind of that sexy, creative, cool, look at everything that we can generate, but Adobe very intentionally expanded its AI introductions across 2024 directly into the platforms that its customers were using to build experiences, to build creativity, to build new engagements for their customers. This was everything from new foundation models across that were introduced across the Firefly family of models, everything from a new text to image that's actually creating generations 4 times faster to a newly introduced video model. And the thing to remember about all of those AI launches and introductions is that they are all very purposefully enterprise and commercially safe. So Adobe has put in a lot of hard work into making sure that what their customers are deploying are ready for their customers to use. And so with that, Shantanu Narayan has recently just announced that within their earnings, they are attributing anywhere from about $2 billion into new ARR across their digital media business. So for folks who are wondering if Adobe can make money off of AI, I'm pretty sure that the last quarter of this year had a definitive yes attached to that. So we're seeing that AI is being put to work. Yes, it is creating profit and opportunity for Adobe, but it's also putting other systems to work. So we saw the introduction of the Acrobat AI assistant that literally allows about 1 trillion PDFs to actually start talking. So when we start to talk about how all of that information and how all of that data starts to integrate into systems, it really is now going to be data. We also saw a lot of AI introductions across their digital experience solutions and platforms, everything from journey analytics all the way through new AI-powered, Gen AI-powered tools and solutions across Gen Studio, which are allowing not only smaller organizations and mid-market to come into this experience space, but it's also unlocking a whole lot of processes and data. So it's not just one thing. It's not just one model. It's not just one product. It's not just one launch. It's kind of all of 2024. Adobe kept that AI drum beating, and they are certainly seeing the results to that. So congratulations, Adobe, for the best AI launch of 2024. Okay.
Hey Liz, you need to wait for the drum roll, even if it's your category. I was ready and didn't have a chance, okay?
Okay, let's test this out. You ready? Are you ready, Holger? Because I'm going to go with the next category. Here we go.
I'm ready.
Best partnership. And there are a lot. Okay, let me recap this. Let me just turn back the Wayback Machine just a little bit. For the last 2 years, we have gone ahead and just basically said blank company and everyone is the winner of this category. We have not done that this year. We actually put a flag in the stand. We stuck that down and said, nope, we're picking 2 companies who partnered together. I mean, listen, we got runners up like ServiceNow and Five9. Cool partnership there. Awesome. But hey, Doug, cue the drum roll from Holger. Doug,
our winners are AWS and Oracle. They're finally moving past their years of competitive sniping. This is a pragmatic partnership, long overdue from a customer perspective. Customers can now use the leading enterprise-grade database services, Oracle Autonomous Database, Oracle Exadata Database Service, as well as the world's leading open source database, MySQL with MySQL HeatWave, on the world's leading public cloud. And these services are available with the blessings and support of both companies. No more wondering if you're going to get slapped on the wrist on licensing by Oracle. So very clear. I'm unsure whether it took the change in the CEO at AWS, or maybe one or more mega clients went to both parties and said, time to get it together. But it's a good thing for all joint customers. They get to leverage their substantial investments in Oracle and use it on their preferred cloud.
Nice. I love it. Okay. We've got partnerships. We've got the best of the best, the companies and the CEOs. Let's dive into best tech acquisition. Okay. Moment of truth. Just a quick show of hands amongst my colleagues. Anyone actually think that this was a blockbuster year for tech acquisitions? Like it blew it off the charts. Like, oh my God, they were stunning. They were so amazing. Chirag's giving the big thumbs down. Martin's got some thumbs down. I'm not sure how many of us have the thumbs down icon. Everyone's this was not a great year for acquisitions, kids. And I think we all agree that next year, it's going to be a vastly different market. It's going to be a vastly different, posture. So we're going to have a whole lot of arguments next year, but a runners up in this category, we were looking at things like HP, Juniper, and we were looking at 𝐶𝐞𝐬𝐭 and Veritas. So a couple of acquisitions that got the nod, but listen, here who the winner was, because I think, again, it goes back to the theme of 2024. It's got to work. It's got to be usable. It's got to be valuable for customers. So best tech acquisition of the year goes to SAP and WalkMe. WalkMe, the digital adoption platform darling, really provided from the first moment of SAP CEO Christian Klein's keynote at Sapphire, where he basically said the inside stuff out loud that none of this is really going to matter if no one uses it. Wasn't really expecting Christian to bust out with that type of honesty there. I'm not gonna lie, but he did. And I, for one, I think I remember actually showing all my colleagues a note that I had written down of that I guess they better go build a DApp real fast. And within a day, the announcement of the acquisition intent was made. So where we're going to look for this to actually make a difference for SAP and SAP's customers is really going to be around the ability to visualize, track, and understand if business transformation goals are actually being realized. Because again, if no one's using it, did it really matter? And a lot of people are going to say no, right? So look for SAP to really integrate this across the platform. Like really the entry point is Signavio, but you're going to start to see this really integrate across all of SAP. I think that what you're really going to see is as SAP really starts to try to guide and rule those workflows and all of the data that's coming across the organization, as AI becomes central to where SAP is focusing and heading, you have to be able to understand if people are using it. So the WalkMe acquisition becomes really, really important as we move into 2025.
Liz,
there's the best.
Second strike on Drumbo missed on your customers. You're short.
Okay, we're gonna. Hey everyone. So if you pay attention to that upper corner, Holger's gonna be on the count of all the drum rolls Liz missed, but we're gonna have another one that's coming up here. When there is a best tech acquisition, there's always a worst. And there are a lot. Okay, I'm gonna. Here's an inside Constellation baseball secret I'm gonna share. I think we argued more about the worst application of the worst acquisitions from last year and how they just really got even worse. Like, or even some of the ones that we said were the best or the biggest. And we had a lot of confusion over biggest equaling best. That's a whole different conversation. But a lot of the conversation around worst was around how everything disappointed us from last year. So we actually did kind of struggle to find the worst. And when it came down to it, yeah, we had a runner up in the whole Broadcom VMware thing. Holger gets really touchy about this one, and it's fine. We're gonna have another conversation about it next year. And it's fair, right? It's fair if everyone wants to call it the worst, and Holger's pointing out it's too early to tell, right? But here's what we did decide. It says a lot about your acquisition strategy if no one wants to be acquired. And this year, Alphabet didn't get dinged once. It got dinged twice. So despite being the co-winner of Best Enterprise Company of the Year, wow, a lot of people didn't want to dance with Google. The first acquisition we saw was HubSpot. The second acquisition that fell through was Wiz. I think from the Wiz perspective, we heard from Chirag very rightly that Wiz had so much confidence in itself and its fast move into being a really significant player in cloud security that it decided to go that path alone, seeing more opportunity in partnership strategy and in its continued growth strategy than by being part of Google. HubSpot was a different animal. HubSpot was a bit more rumor. HubSpot was a bit more gee, I wonder if than a real acquisition strategy. I think there are lots of questions in regard to the potential of HubSpot being acquired. I think the biggest question certainly that I personally raised was what happens when you own both the inbound and the outbound channels of the largest part of your business? That becomes a little dangerous on multiple fronts. And while, yes, the upcoming regulatory environment would likely have been more positive to that type of acquisition, customers weren't really excited about that type of acquisition, both on the Google and on the HubSpot side, and that is really important. So as far as worst goes, we had to give it to Alphabet and anybody. we just left that door open. Ray, I saw you saying something right in the very beginning. What was that? Ray's.
Oops.
I think Ray's yawn is pretty much the best the best summary for this category. So let's just put this one to bed. Okay. When you have acquisitions,
3 for 3 for no drum roll here. So I think you also
Holger's up to 3 on the drum roll count. We're gonna keep rolling though. Best IPO. We've had best startup. We've had worst acquisition, best acquisition. Chirag has argued that this should be best exit because again, in another year
Exit would be great. That's a good idea.
Entries, right? We kind of had a hard time trying to find something, but we did actually land on one that then we had to argue whether it was enterprise tech or not. So there's that. But Larry, even though Rubrik was the runner-up, who was the winner of this? Wait, hang on.
Drum roll.
Drum roll. Okay, Larry.
It's all Reddit. When this thing went public early in 2024, it was all basically, we were in Gen AI phase. It was nothing but AI was going to dominate humans. And then Reddit goes public and they did a deal here and there where they were training models and then growth took off. Part of this was because Twitter/X is doing what they're doing. So you're looking for sentiment analysis and Reddit happens to have that cornered now. If you look at, basically the gist of all this is humans matter. Humans actually generating real content matter, and they matter to the models. OpenAI, Google, Reddit has all those partnerships. And it also matters in terms of search. So when I'm looking for products, I find myself going to Reddit to see what real people think. So you add this up, it's fascinating to see that Reddit took off. I'm kind of stunned by it, to be honest, because I thought it was going to fall on its face. But right now, they're on a revenue run rate of $1.4 billion a year in annual sales. Active users or active daily users are approaching 100 million. Things legit. And I think it's legit because of human generated content and the fact that models are tapped out for data and they need as many humans creating data as possible.
I like it. I mean, listen, and from an advertising perspective, people thought Reddit wasn't going to make it, but clearly
and now they're also cooking up their own search experience.
Yep,
which is also going to be interesting.
Absolutely, super interesting stuff happening over there. Okay, best new enterprise category. This is always a tough one because we always end up super ahead of what we're talking about here at Constellation. We tend to be the disruptors and the loud kids in the room with new drums. And when we talk about these types of categories, I'm going to take the runner-up in this category being decision intelligence, right? These are going to be things that next year, the year after that, everyone's going to have rolling off their tongue as if it's no big deal, right? Oh yeah, decision intelligence. I've got my decision intelligence engine. Of course, I've been looking at that, right? Like we're going to talk. The market's going to be talking about these things for several years, but in a couple of years, and wonder, wow, who thought of those things? And I mean, drum roll, please. We did. Anyway, okay. So when it comes to best new enterprise category, this is something that has been brewing for a long time, but it's something that we at Constellation, and I will point to a lot of the great work and a lot of the great content that Ray has been putting out about the maturity scale of AI and AI adoption. We have been talking about this next phase for quite some time, but I think this is the year that it really hit. So Martin, what's the best new enterprise category for the year?
Well, I don't think it's okay. Drum roll. I don't think it's any surprise. Obviously, it's agentic AI, right? It's clearly, when you've got Salesforce tripping over itself to kind of redo its whole entire Dreamforce story to make its event basically Agentforce instead of Dreamforce to get ahead of Oracle, SAP, Microsoft, others who are doing this. It really shows that this was here. This is now. I think the speed at which agentic AI has been deployed as broadly as it has, a lot to what Holger talked about in the beginning, right? We're really seeing this as one of the most quickly adopted new technologies. Now, granted, is it very adjacent to Gen AI? Yes, but the speed and the ease of which it can be adopted is kind of unprecedented, right? When we talk about, like I said, cool new ideas, everybody loves them, everybody talks about them, but when do you see rubber meeting the road? This was insanely fast, almost frighteningly fast, some might argue. But what we also really saw was, this isn't just about, features and parts of enterprise software that make the software better or easier. It's not just helping business users in a business software context. It is changing the way that we actually think about, develop, build, maintain, deploy, optimize software as well. So the amount of productivity for end users, but also productivity and efficiencies that we're gaining in every aspect is insane. And then as we get to, and I think it ties into the kind of runner-up, as the autonomous nature starts to build of agents, that decisioning and where decisions get kind of filtered out that don't need to be made by humans, and then humans can focus on the decisions that matter, really important things. And we're really speeding to that. And that's, been kind of blindingly fast. I mean, did anyone actually have an agent live before September? No, right? And, we're only talking about a quarter and it's taken over everything. So a clear winner here in my mind.
Love it. Love it. Now that we've figured out all the things, the people, the platforms, the solutions, now we got to talk about how we sell it a little bit, how we talk about it and promote it. And y'all know that these are the two sections that I love and that I argue about, and that at some point Holger is going to shout something like CRM randomly into the screen, and that's fine. It's all good. But I'm just going to rely on him for some more drum rolls. But see, there you go. But, okay. Here are the next two sections, and they are linked and connected to one another for both of these winners. But let's talk about new enterprise software marketing of the year. The runner-up here is Agentforce, for all the reasons that both Martin and Holger have both very eloquently stated. They had to get a nod and they had to get recognition. But to be very fair, Atlassian stood out. And that's why they're the winner of this year's enterprise marketing category. Atlassian has long been criticized, or at least pulled to task, for having this expansive portfolio of individual tools that all kind of touched into certain areas. They all kind of felt like they could be related, but their buying groups were slightly different. Their application groups were slightly different. Their deployment groups were slightly different. But this 2024, I've got to say, was the year that Atlassian's marketing team really kicked it into high gear. And they really set out intentionally to redefine collaboration and work and the platforms, the solutions, the data, and the AI that was required to make both of those two critical needs in business actually matter. And so across all of their touch points, whether it was advertising, whether it was across their thought leadership, across something as complex as a white paper. And yes, I said complex as a white paper. But if it was their thought leadership to their advertising campaigns, to their outreach, to their webinars, regardless of what product you were looking at, you consistently heard the marketing value proposition around collaboration and the importance of systems of work. You really heard that because of those two foundational solutions, you could extract new data, you could look for new insights, you could connect your business in very, very different ways. So for that, we've awarded Atlassian that new enterprise software marketing of the year nod. Now, I don't know if this really gets a second drum roll, but we can try. Second drum roll for advertising. Anyone want it? Anyone? Okay, because this is connected. Enterprise software ad campaign of the year goes to Jira.
Oh, wow.
If anyone has seen the ads that Jira has put out, okay, first of all, they're hysterical. If you need a good laugh for the end of the year, go onto YouTube. Honestly, check them out. When it talks about an actor wanting to talk about work, he actually walks everyone through his contract negotiation, what he's going to talk about, all the different things, and how rich he's going to be. Because you know what? He's going to be stinky wealthy because of that ad campaign. And even though that's not actually going to happen, and with his long-suffering wife in the background, you really end up with Zach Woods being really the perfect spokesperson for Jira and how work could happen and be automated and be enriched with AI and really just flow and happen. So congratulations to Jira. Guys, honestly, if you haven't seen it, probably one of the funniest campaigns. Spotify also has a good runner-up. If you haven't seen the Spotify ad for B2B, actually, for their B2B business, where Spotify and a playlist completely re-architected and redid an Excel spreadsheet, it is something to behold, especially if you are an Excel spreadsheet nerd. Anyone? Larry is. I can tell. Larry and Martin. Chirag's doing it on his free time. Andy's really going and doing this. Okay. We're coming down to the end here. Live event. We don't go to any. We stay at home as analysts. We don't go anywhere. We're kind of locked away. No, we go to way too many live events to the point where we have anointed 2 specific areas of the calendar year as event silly season. And it's like, we've got silly season spring. We've got silly season winter. We go to a lot of live events. So this was actually super hard, but also super easy to figure out because the runners up were 2 great events in HPE Discover 2024 and AWS reInvent, which is a perennial inclusion on this list, if not a previous winner. But for this year, the winner was?
Well, the winner, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and they had a conference 9 years ago at a nondescript location. I had never been to that venue before. So if you don't live here, you would not even know that that place actually exists. So in 8 or 9 years, going from a nondescript location in San Francisco to one of the largest convention centers in Las Vegas, it is Google Cloud Next. So this year's winner is Google Cloud. Google Cloud has come a long way. So imagine, at a location in San Francisco to 30,000 plus people attend this year with a private concert in a football stadium. It was not as cool as the HPE's keynote in Sphere, but maybe next year. But having that energy, this year was Google Cloud's moment. It was their moment. Google Cloud gets a lot of flack for not being enterprising enough. That Google Cloud is not as enterprising as AWS or Microsoft because you don't experience the large number of customers or ecosystem at one place. But this year it was very different. You could see the energy, you could see the vibes, you could hear people talking about the progress that Google Cloud made. They grew their revenue 5 times in the last 5 years. It's 5x in the last 5 years. And they're going to continue to grow. And this year was their Gemini, it was their AI moment as part of this Gen AI year. And it was a big unveiling of all things Gemini. And they also announced some of the solutions on cybersecurity side, which happens to be one of the fastest growing business for Google Cloud. So it was a great event. It was a flawless event that really left a mark. And this year it was Google Cloud's moment.
Excellent. Okay. All of these other categories were lovely and they're a lot of fun and we all enjoy talking about them. Y'all enjoy hearing about them, but let's just be honest about something. This last category, it's really the only one everyone cares about. Like universally over the past 5 years since I've been at Constellation, it's like we put all this work in and we're like, oh my God, who's the best CEO? Like we toil over. If you guys could hear how much we argue over all of this stuff, because everyone, like all of these runners up, all of these winners, you guys have done amazing, amazing jobs. Folks who aren't on the list, like these are really, really hard to decide. None of it. Like when we release this, you want to know what y'all are going to talk about and post on the socials and talk about on the Reddits and stuff like that? This next category. And it hurts. I'm not going to lie. It's like you guys ignore everything else and all of our other hard work. Biggest tech flop of the year. And there are usually a bunch. Like it's like the belly flop splash heard round the technology world. Like this year, there were a bunch of rollouts and the Department of Education's new financial aid system did not go well. It was a flop across multiple sections of technology. But even with that giant flop that like we'd still have students coming on and attesting, or parents actually, who were worrying about financial aid. We would still have people testifying that it should be the biggest flop. We have an even bigger one. We have a bigger one. And people are going to be shocked by this, I think. Maybe not that Holger says it's a flop, but by everyone else. Hey, Doug, Holger's ready for his drum roll. Doug, biggest flop of the year, buddy.
Apple Vision Pro.
Boo. Boo.
Yeah.
We're talking a late arrival to an already failed metaverse market. Yes, a very sophisticated device, but overweight at more than a pound, overpriced at $3,500, short battery life of only about 2 hours, paltry selection of augmented and mixed reality content. Rumor has it Apple is ending production of this because they can't sell the 500,000 to 600,000 devices that they've already produced. Look, the simple truth is metaverse will never gain mainstream adoption because most people don't want to cut themselves off from reality and other people. And they don't want to look like a dork with a device on their head. But if you must join the metaverse, try Meta's MetaQuest 3S headset for just $299.
Whoa, that was an endorsement even here.
Oh, Ray's like, no, it's awesome. I don't look like a dork. No.
It's an iFlop.
We're seeing the slopes this year being reutilized.
I do have an Apple phone, but
he does have an Apple phone. This is not an Apple thing.
This is a repeat performance, though, for Apple. In 2017, they were the very latest arrival to the smart speaker market with the overpriced HomePod, and Siri is still the dumbest smart assistant in the market.
Oh, Doug's ending this whole show on fire. It is just, I love it. I love it.
The historic milestone is though, right? This is the biggest launch failure Apple has done. They had lots of failures before. This is in the Newton dimension back in the 90s for the historians of enterprise technology. Right?
No.
Because I have one of those
I think you're all missing the point.
The wild comeback in 2025. Listen to it here now.
I think you're all missing the point. But I'll say it this
your
way.
prediction for AVP in 2025, Ray, putting you on the spot here.
They started the process of getting everyone into the metaverse, building an ecosystem for metaverse on the back end. While these sales haven't taken off, you've got to start somewhere. And this is their way of starting somewhere. It's kind of like Apple Maps really sucked when they first came out. They're actually really good now. So it's going to take them a little bit to get this right because all the price performance things aren't there, right? And if you were priced this less than $3,500, you're basically wiping away the revenue for a keyboard, a monitor, and a device. And really that's a replacement product ultimately for what we're seeing in the Mac. What they haven't built is a new revenue stream. And that's really the big question is what will they build next? That's going to be just as big as an iPhone or just as big as something else. That new category isn't there. It could have been the car. It could have been something else, but I believe what you're going to see, it's going to come in from the healthcare side. So that's all.
Nice. All right. Okay. Got a little prediction to end our show here. I like it from Ray. We got a little fire from Doug, which is always fun to see. I mean, you always got to be around when fiery Doug arrives on the Zoom.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a very happy holidays to all of you out there. Have a great end of year. We are going to have a huge 2025. It's going to be wild. It's going to be crazy. It in and of itself is going to be disruptive. And all of us here at Constellation are going to be there for the wild ride with you. So thanks from all of us. We'll catch you next time.